Hello, thank you for joining us for our video conference today. Today we're going to review some research our committee has been doing to try to answer the question whether we should pursue the purchase of Chrysler or not. We're going to jump right into it start off with the executive summary. The situation that we face is we need to make that decision, and we're looking for your guidance at the end of this. We're going to present some information to you, share with you our conclusions and our own recommendations, but then seek your guidance on what you'd like the next actions to be. Some of the complications that arise in this decision include the fact that Chrysler already turned down a previous offer from us at $55 a share. Our ability to obtain financing for the needed capital to complete this purchase is possibly in question. We'll get into that a little bit more. Our secondary financial review that was requested by leadership has been completed, and our opinion is that that review has decreased the desirability of our purchase. There are other players now in the market that are starting to show interest in Chrysler, which is driving the price up. We currently have a 10% stake in Chrysler already. So those are the complications that are involved with this decision and things that we need to consider. Our overall recommendation is that we do not purchase Chrysler at this time. However, perhaps it's the right time to divest of ownership in Chrysler and realize the gains that we would see because the market is driving the price of the stock up right now. Okay, so let's jump into it, go a little bit further, give you some detail. Our relationship with Chrysler. Like I said, they've already declined our previous offer of $55 a share. The CEO took a hard line against being for sale. We will not sell Chrysler. The company is not for sale. In addition to that, we found that Chrysler is actually, after our offer, went out and impacted our ability to fund. They've influenced many of the leading lenders that we would normally approach to gain the capital needed to complete the purchase, and have influenced them not to lend us money. And so far, they're not lending us money. Jumping into the secondary financial review, we completed various analysis on the company, and I'll share that with you now. Financial statements show that Chrysler is in a state of decline. They saw a 41% decrease in their net profits from the previous year. Regarding the liquidity of the company, the current ratio is 1.48 this year, and it was 1.44 last year. The acid test reveals that Chrysler sets at a 0.52, which is well below the industry standard of a 1.55. It's not a highly liquid company, and our concern here is that it may not have the adequate assets to convert to cash in order to pay its liabilities. Another thing we notice is that inventory is not turning over as frequently as competitors are. While the rest of the industry is turning inventory about 10 times in a year, Chrysler has only been able to do that about 7 times. The amount of inventory on hand this year increased by 32.5% since last year. Inventory is not turning frequent enough to keep costs down, in our opinion. The net profit margin is down 3.9% in the current year compared to a 6.7% last year. The return on the total assets is below the industry average, experiencing a 46.4% decline from last year. Chrysler is only generating 18.9% profit from shareholder equity, which is below industry average, which sets at 42%. It's definitely a decrease from last year. So that's the conclusion of our financial review. Our financial review numbers, all of the indicators that we look at would suggest that we would change our mind regarding pursuing the purchase of Chrysler at this time. The impact of internal interest is where I want to go next, because it's a very interesting scenario, because since we made our bid at the $55 per share, a company that hasn't been looked at, Chrysler, all of a sudden started being looked at by a lot of different companies. And that interest has actually risen their stock price and increased the complications of pursuing purchase at this time. Other bidders, they're showing the interest. The stock price drove up about 24% since our initial bid. And in this situation, as you all well know, the higher the stock price, the less desirable the purchase is for Chrysler, for our company to purchase Chrysler. Conversely, we hold a 10% stake in the company already. With that 24% increase, and anything else to come, the higher the stock goes in this case, the greater return we can realize on our money, on our investment of that 10%. So in conclusion, and the next steps that we're asking to take is that it is this committee's recommendation that we do not pursue the purchase of Chrysler at this time, and that we look towards divesting our ownership in Chrysler, realizing the gains on our current investment at the appropriate time. Obviously, we work with accounting and make sure that we made that jump when we thought that we would be at the peak of our return. The next steps that we're looking for from you is, first of all, as always, we welcome any questions, suggestions, comments, anything that you have. We would like to entertain those. Make sure that we can answer them fully so you can help us with your guidance. We'd also like you to indicate your approval or an alternate directive for us as soon as you possibly can, because time is of the essence. We'd like to make this decision by tomorrow. I appreciate the time you spent with us today. We look forward to reading and your comments, talking with you about any suggestions you have or questions you have as well. Thank you so much.